So Joe Milton got traded today. I'm not thrilled to say the least, especially after seeing what he went for. The Cowboys only gave up a fifth rounder for Joe Milton, and they got a seventh rounder in return. So really, it was just, it's not even just a fifth round pick. They got a seventh round pick from the Patriots, a fifth rounder for seventh rounder pick swap and Joe Milton. Like, my God. My initial reaction was like, the Steelers could have done that. What are we doing? Asleep at the wheel. It's like that meme with the stick figure and the stick. Like, come on, Steelers, like, do something. We could have done that. And how it relates to the Steelers, even though we didn't get Joe Milton, is like he's one of the quarterbacks we were talking about potentially bringing in, whether or not Rodgers was here or not. More so if we eventually didn't sign Rodgers, because he could have competed with Mason Rudolph. He could have been at least early on the backup for Mason, right? Going into this offseason, going into 2025. But his name was thrown out there as a legitimate trade candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not anymore. He's with the Cowboys. And it's going to be harder to find someone with higher upside and potential in this draft when you're talking about a fifth round pick. Like, who are you getting with higher upside than Joe Milton, just using a fifth round pick? But also, again, you're not even just giving up a fifth round pick. You're getting that seventh in return. It's like a little pick swap. I mean, one could argue for this quarterback class, there's no one outside of Cam Ward with higher upside compared to Joe Milton. And again, if we're talking about trying to fill out the Steelers quarterback room, would you rather spend a third rounder on Milroe or a fifth on Joe Milton? Would you rather spend a fourth rounder on Quinn Ewers or a fifth on Joe Milton? A third or a fourth on Will Howard or a fifth on Joe Milton? A third rounder on Tyler Shuck or a fifth on Joe Milton? I think you get my point. Milton isn't a sure thing, but the talent is off the charts, man. And he looked awesome in his rookie debut, his regular season debut, week 18, Patriots versus the Bills. What was he, 21 of 27? Looked way more polished as a passer than any time I saw him at Tennessee. And you add the escapability, the running element that he brings, and just the flat out right arm strength. The dude, what did he throw? An orange, like 80, 85 yards on the fly? So if you watch that week 18 tape from Joe Milton and you see that, all right, his game is just a year into this league here, sitting on the bench behind Drake May, his game's starting to get a little bit more refined. Like I said, he was over 60% completion percentage, 21 to 27. I might even be discrediting by saying 60%. I guess that might be close to 70. Multiple touchdowns, look poised. Yeah, it looked like the NFL game was not too big of a stage for him. So you watch that with the talent, the upside that he still has, man, if he gets the opportunity and can put it all together, he could do some damage in this league. And that's why Steeler fans were talking about potentially trading for Joe Milton, especially if we didn't get Rodgers in here. We could do the whole year of Mason Rudolph and Joe Milton. They compete in the offseason. And if Mason ends up winning the job, Mason's the starter. You have Joe Milton be the backup. See if anything goes awry during the season. And, if Mason isn't living up, then you put Joe Milton in there for like the last half of the season and see if he could be a guy for you. See if he could develop that talent. Like that would have been, I think that would have been the formula. You have Mason and Milton compete in the offseason, may the best man win. And if Mason ended up winning, yeah, you see what Mason does. And if it's good enough, you just keep rolling with Mason. But if not, you got this dude with super potential chilling as your backup and could really be worth it if, again, things go awry during the season, to give him a chance. See what he could do as a starter for a month or two. Because it's so little risk. I mean, the Cowboys gave up a fifth rounder. And going back to when Milton was drafted, it was just a sixth rounder to draft him. So little risk, but at this point, high upside. Really high upside. So, The other thing is, you don't, and that's the other thing. If we get Rodgers, we don't even have to, and even if we didn't, like I said, with the whole Mason scenario, like you're not stressing about starting him for 2025. You could wait another year or two for the development. Like, you don't have to rush Joe Milton or anything. He's still on the rookie contract. But I got new information ever since the trade initially went down. Apparently, the Steelers weren't fully asleep at the wheel on this Milton move. According to Jordan Schultz, the Steelers looked into trading for Joe Milton. He became available at the start of the offseason, and teams that showed interest included the Raiders, Eagles, Giants, Steelers, and the Cowboys. How about this? Patriots had a better offer for Milton, but chose to send him where he wanted to out of respect for him. Per source. So I can't be that mad at the Steelers. If Joe Milton just wanted to go to the Cowboys, that was the team that was on his mind. That's the team he was set on. Is what it is. Nothing that the Steelers could have done. And in fact, maybe the Steelers did make a better deal behind the scenes. Maybe they did that we just don't know about. But Milton wanted to go to the Cowboys, and Patriots took the lesser offer. There were a handful of teams interested, and I don't blame those teams for being interested either. Based off of everything I explained to you with where Milton is in his NFL career and just the upside and the potential that he has, I don't blame these teams. I mean, Eagles, what are the Eagles doing? I mean, that's just how the Eagles operate, though. I mean, they were in the conversations for like a Myles Garrett trade. They just don't care. They don't care. They're going to try to improve their team year in and year out, no matter what they did the prior season. So I don't blame the Eagles. They traded Kenny Pickett. They still got what's his face? McKee is their backup, but then they're looking at Joe Milton. They're like, man, I don't know if there's anyone on this roster that's got more upside than Joe Milton. Now, obviously, Jalen Hurts is the much better quarterback, but it's like if Jalen Hurts went down and you're talking about a guy trying to replicate that Jalen Hurts offense, who would you trust more, a Tanner McKee or a Joe Milton? I think Joe Milton. You let those two duke it out for QB2, and then maybe you do the same thing as you did with Kenny Pickett. After 2025 rolls through, either Tanner McKee, Joe Milton builds up that good credit as the Eagles backup, and then you trade them for a pick and you keep the other one on the roster for 2026, and it's just a cycle. But yeah, Eagles, kind of funny that they were in the mix here. Giants, kind of makes sense. It definitely makes sense. I don't know if it makes as much sense now after they did the whole Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston signings, but they're still in the conversation for drafting a quarterback. So it still makes a little bit of sense in a way. Raiders, yeah, I think Joe Milton be a good backup for Geno Smith for a year or two. But ultimately, he decided to go to the Cowboys. I honestly can't blame Joe Milton that much either. Like, we can't blame the Steelers. They did their due diligence. They may have even put in a higher trade offer than what the Cowboys did. I think they were serious about potentially bringing in Joe Milton. So credit to the Steelers for that. But like, I can't blame Joe Milton for picking the Cowboys out of that bunch of teams, because I could easily see this being Dak's last year there. Cowboy fans are getting fed up with Dak, and the fact that the team and Jerry Jones is paying him $60 million is just insane. And if Dak picks up where he left off last year before he got hurt, expect just more disappointment. And if Dak just picks up where he's left off for most of his career, it's just always, it's disappointment with him. He's good enough to keep you relevant. He's good enough to get you to the playoffs. But when you're talking about winning big games, going up against top defense, going up against elite, higher end quarterbacks, Dak, he just doesn't stack up. But that's the crazy part with him getting $60 million. $60 million is literally the highest paid amount to a quarterback going, not even last year, but also going into this year. And Josh Allen got a new deal. Like, make that make sense. Josh Allen just got a new deal, and he's still getting paid less than Dak Prescott, $60 million. So if we get usual Dak again in 2025, I could easily see people calling for Milton to get a chance, because if you're the Cowboys, why not? What do you have to lose? You're not winning anything seriously with this roster the way that it is and how much you're paying Dak, why not see what Milton could be? Like, could he actually be your next franchise quarterback? Could he be the future for your team? Again, low risk, high reward with a Joe Milton on your roster. I mean, me personally, call me extreme, call me an anarchist, but I would just do it now. I would just start Joe Milton from week 1, trade Dak if you can. I don't know if you're going to be able to trade Dak because of that contract, but give Milton the keys. And it's I almost compare it to the Steelers situation. Like, the Steelers, where we sit right now and how we have looked over these last several years, we are at this like breaking point where we got to shoot for upside and ceiling, because this status quo way of operating is just not good enough. We know it gets you 9-8, 10-7. It keeps you relevant and gets you to the playoffs, but it's not good enough to win the ultimate prize. And the Cowboys, they're in the same boat with Dak Prescott, and he's past his prime. I don't really see him getting any better as time goes on either, especially with the Cowboys having less talent around Dak. Dak's not a guy that can elevate the players around him. He needs good players around him first, and then he could game manage. He could, again, keep you relevant, keep you good enough to make the playoffs, maybe even win a division. But again, when push comes to shove, these big moments, the big games, Dak falls flat. And now, again, your team's going to be lesser around him because of how much you're paying Dak, and also how much you're paying CD Lamb, and how much you're going to be paying Micah Parsons. So how is Dak going to be a better solution for you going forward? How is he going to be getting better and improving? I don't see it. I don't see it at all. But I would see the vision for giving Joe Milton a chance. I like that we looked into it again, and maybe we did have a better offer. But it's just the Patriots doing right by their guy, deferring to Milton on his choice. And I guess there's some respect. There's nobility there in that. But it would have been nice, man. It would have been nice to get Joe Milton for a 5th-round pick, and then also get a 7th-rounder in return, get a second 7th-round pick, just to maybe ensure that we get Desmond Watson in that 7th round, just to have that extra pick right there so he doesn't become an undrafted free agent. But yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about quarterback then in the draft at all, like at all. But anyway, Milton's not a Steeler. Steelers missed out, but again, I appreciate the effort. I do appreciate the effort that we looked into it. That would have been really cool. I think we would have had a nice quarterback room for this year, and to start setting things up for the future as well, to have a Joe Milton in here. But anyway, let's stick with quarterback, and I did mention Aaron Rodgers there, so why not give the latest Aaron Rodgers updates? Jay Hathorn, according to Andrew Filipponi, Jay Hathorn is a local Pittsburgh radio host, thinks that the Steelers and Rodgers have a secret deal behind the scenes. I think you got to take this information with a grain of salt. I think he's just going off of what he thinks his best judgment is here. The fact that he's been a Pittsburgh reporter, radio host for a good time, is familiar with the Steelers, familiar with these Pittsburgh teams. I think he's just going off of what he sees and how this dynamic is playing out, and he's just giving his best guess. He's giving his best judgment here. That would be my assessment of the situation. He's not reporting this or anything, but at this point, yeah, maybe I kind of buy into it. Not even going to front, as we get closer and closer to this McAfee show that's going to be live here in Pittsburgh. What's he calling it? Big night out. Maybe that's the holdup. Maybe that's the real holdup. Rodgers wants to make this decision a spectacle. Have some fun with it. Give a little slap in the face to traditional sports media and reporting, and announce it via the Big Night Out live show with McAfee in the city where the team is located that he's going to be signing to. Like, Aaron Rodgers' thought process could be, this might be what's going on in his mind. Just screw it. I'm 41. I'm Aaron Rodgers. This is the first time I've ever even been a free agent. So why not do something like this and have fun with it? Make it a spectacle. Make it like the LeBron James decision from back in the day. What, 10, 15 years ago? Yeah, I guess that decision, how long ago was that? That was like 14, 15 years ago. My God. But he's also probably thinking like, yeah, have fun with it. We're all gonna die anyway. What is life? It's all just matter and atoms. How is life worth living if I feel like I have to repress my desire to announce I'm signing with the Steelers on the live Pat McAfee show? Like this, I could see Aaron Rodgers going through like this whole thought process of just, why not? Screw it. Right? Everyone's thinking there's no way Rodgers is really going to do something like this. There's no way he can, especially with how the Jets' tenure ended and what Rodgers' reputation is at times for being a little bit more me first as opposed to team first. But what does Rodgers typically what does Rodgers typically do in these type of situations? He'll just do it anyway. He'll just do whatever Aaron Rodgers wants to do. So at this point, maybe there is a secret deal behind the scenes, and the holdup is, waiting 5 or 6 more days for this live Pat McAfee show, and that's when he's going to announce it in Pittsburgh. Live at the Pat McAfee show, big night out. It's a 50-50 shot. It might be a 50-50 shot because what else is there? What else? Like, what bit of information? What other thing is Aaron Rodgers looking for to make his decision? Like, what's going to change from now till next week, till 2 weeks down the line, till a month down? What's going to really change? And if that does happen, if it is just the McAfee show, that's the real holdup. He wants to do it, make it a spectacle. I'm not a big fan of it. I'll say it again, but I won't be a complete Debbie Downer on it, especially if the Steelers are in on it. Tomlin and Rooney are all in on the secret. Then cool. I'll get hype about it. I'll get excited about it because ultimately Aaron Rodgers is going to be our quarterback for next year. But if Rodgers is the one that's going rogue on this and is leaving everyone in the dark and then just does it this way on his own, little bit of a red flag, I'd say. Little not getting off on the best footing with his new team. So I don't know what else the holdup could be. I really don't. Now, Diana Rossini, she offered her insight into this. Recently went on the Herd, Colin Cowherd show on Fox Sports and gave her opinion. She's been reporting on this for the last few weeks and thinks that money now may be more of an issue than what it was, say, like a week or two ago. I mean, didn't we see all the reports that were talking about how money is not an issue with Rodgers' decision to sign with the Steelers? But now she's bringing up as a thought, as a guesstimate, that Rodgers maybe wanted more money from the Steelers. Maybe the Steelers contract isn't enough for Rodgers. Here's the full quote. She says, when it comes down to it, usually it's money. Financials are always part of it. He does not need to sign and take some cheap deal. He knows the Steelers need him. Do I think he was going to be willing to take less to play for a team that he thinks is a Super Bowl caliber team, like the Minnesota Vikings? Absolutely. But I think this situation is different. There's going to be a number here that's going to make Aaron Rodgers happy. And I don't know if Pittsburgh is there yet. When you talk to people from Pittsburgh, they really give you the sense that it's all going to work out. We're fine. You heard Mike Tomlin. We're not panicking. He's having the direct communication with Rodgers, and I believe Rodgers is telling him, we'll get there. So there you go. Maybe it's not the Pat McAfee show. That there's a secret deal behind the scenes, and Rodgers is going to announce it at the Pat McAfee show. Maybe Rodgers wants a little bit more money. That's another way to put it, or that's another way to potentially look at this as to what the holdup is. Maybe that's it. I don't know, man. I think anyone's guess is as good as mine or Rossini's or Hathorn's at this point. If the money thing is the case, I'll say this: Steelers, let's not be cheap here. Throw Rodgers an extra couple million. Tag an extra year on the deal for good looks, for PR purposes. Doesn't have to be guaranteed or anything, but could show. We could send a sign that this whole Rodgers era could be more than just one and done. And that's maybe something that Rodgers is looking for. That's been reported out there that Rodgers would maybe like to establish something with his new team and make it be at least a 2-year thing, as opposed to just gets to a new team this offseason, season goes by, and then that's it. He just goes and retires. I think he might actually want to build something, almost like with Brady and the Buccaneers. He got 3 years. Initially, it was going to look like it was only going to be 2, but stayed on for that extra third year. We've been told it's not about the money. We've been told that, which, I mean, the second part of Rossini's statement there also alludes to that as well. That, I mean, this is the offer. Maybe Rodgers does want more, but yeah, the Steelers, there's some wiggle room there. And I think that's ultimately going to be the case. I think that's how Khan and the front office is going to operate. I don't think I gave my advice. I gave my, yeah, we'll just say advice to the Steelers that we shouldn't be cheap. Throw them an extra million, throw an extra year on the deal. But I think they will do that. I think the Steelers are going to be smart about this. But I do wonder, because we haven't heard that there's been necessarily a back and forth with these contract talks with Rodgers and the Steelers, right? The Steelers offered him from the start, and that's been on the table. Rodgers came and visited a couple Fridays ago, and they said they didn't even talk numbers or anything like that. It was just more of a get to know you meeting. So I wonder what that offer is that's out there that's just sitting there right now. How lowball of an offer could it potentially be? Because we know how Khan operates. There's not any excess in contracts that he gives, but sometimes there's exceptions to be made. If Rodgers is like, yeah, I want to play here. This is a good fit. I talked with Arthur Smith. You guys got DK, Pickens. I think that those are going to be some good targets to throw to. We could run a good offense here. Obviously, I have an affinity for Coach T. Like Pittsburgh, heard a bunch of good stories from McCarthy. Storied franchise. It makes sense. And he says, I'm going to need more than $15 million, though. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we should bump him up. We should pay a little bit more than $15 million for Aaron Rodgers if that's what he's looking for. Get him to at least 20, 25. Do something like that. So again, Khan's been operating a certain way with some of these contracts. Definitely making sure to get the best value. And yeah, at this point, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Like you see some of these other offers that are out there, like Russell Wilson getting, what do you get? 12, 13 million guaranteed. And I think incentives up to like 20, 21 million, right? So maybe Khan in the back of his mind, Steelers in the back of his mind are thinking, oh, Russ got 12 guaranteed. We could offer Rodgers 15. There's no other real options for him out there. 15's fair. I don't like it's Aaron Rodgers though, man. Give the man 20 million. Give the man 20 million. And this is all speculation on my part. I don't know. I'm just going off of what Rossini said here, right? Maybe Rodgers is completely fine with the offer, and it's the McAfee thing. That's the thing that's holding it up. But another option could be the contract. Maybe Rodgers does want a little bit more, but doesn't want to come across as needy that he needs money. But it's just more of a respect thing, because obviously Rodgers doesn't need the money. Dude's made bank. 15 million versus 20, 25 million isn't going to change Rodgers' life, but it's still Aaron Rodgers. Like, give him some respect. Aaron Rodgers getting 20 to 25 versus what a bunch of these other quarterbacks are making, like a Dak Prescott, going back to what we were talking about with the whole Cowboy situation, them trading for Joe Milton. Dak Prescott getting 60 and getting Rodgers for 20 to 25. That's a steal. That's an absolute steal. Even if it's not maybe the initial offer that you threw out there of 15 million or something less than 20. 20, 25 is well worth it for an Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion. But again, that may not even be it at all. We don't know. The man hasn't even talked. Really, the man hasn't talked. All we've seen is him throwing with DK Metcalf. That's it. The dude hasn't spoken a word in this whole free agency process. We've just been going off of what Schefter, Rossini, Rappaport, Pelissero, all these people are saying. That's all we got. That's all we got for now. But that's it for today's show. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back next week, 6 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we'll see if Rodgers is a Steeler. I've been saying that to end these shows for about, I think we're coming up on a month maybe, right? At least like 3 weeks. We'll see. But yeah, stay chilling. Here we go, Steelers. Peace.